Thank you, dear heart, and welcome, everybody. Glad that you're here to play and to engage in this ancient conversation that is being updated to our modern way of functioning in the world, and in particular bringing forward some of those ancient tools and the depths of ancient understanding that is just beyond anything we could imagine when we go back to the original language and the original meaning to the words of this man, Yeshua. And we're starting out each show with a short reading from the book, Why Is This Happening to Me Again? And we're in chapter 11, the section on processing and going unconscious. And we've just been having a conversation with Richard about breathing and how important the breath is. And so as I've been reminding him to breathe, we move on with our conversation, and as I invite him to realize the importance of that, moving the breath, that the breath is really the key to how the mind operates within the human form, then holding the breath creates a restriction of energy. Breathing allows that energy to move, allows us to keep in touch with more and more of what's going on within the human system. And so Richard's kind of in agreement with that thought. He says, well, that fits for me. I'm just now, by the way, we're on page 66 if you're going to read along with us. And by the way, I did take a look on Amazon. I was actually kind of surprised that they had, I think it was 67 books, one of them for $65. If you want a copy of my book, it says it's brand new. It's like, wow, I should maybe reprint this and start selling it at $65. But anyway, there are literally 65 books, or 67, I think it was. And as little as $2, it's a little it brings up a little embarrassment. My book selling for $2, $2.10, something like that, whatever it was. So you can get a copy printed from Amazon. I did a quick look search on eBay as well, and there were many, many, many of them. So nice for it to be out there. So Richard accepts the thought on breathing, and he says, I'm now just recalling that when I was a kid, I was told over and over again that I was a sinner. I think that may have done more to drive me away from the church than the hypocrisy that I saw. When you remind me to breathe, it feels like that old pain of being condemned, Richard shared. Well, let's process through what happened and look at it step by step, I suggested. He says, well, wait a minute, what is processing, he asked. Well, I've pretty much described it, but processing in this work is defined as the capacity to hold love conscious, active, and present when something less than love surfaces. It is the main key in healing. It releases the painful component of every reality, unlike love. It is not an intellectual process, though the intellect can initiate it. Processing releases aliveness within. Once its energy starts to move in you, you can never be the same again. You are changed and transformed forever. When it happens, it may be like a lightning bolt or a gentle breeze. It does not matter. Its stirrings are often unconscious at first. You may not know what was happening, but you will know that something has occurred. Value it, treasure it. It is the active power of love reorganizing the core of your being and the expression of the cause of your existence. And so we're looking to initiate an understanding of the healing process. And, you know, when we come across an event, a circumstance, a situation in our lives, the mind has all kinds of responses. And if those responses are based in pain, in trauma, then the tendency will be to go unconscious. And, just kind of, life becomes a blur. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what just happened. I don't know where, I have no power. It leads to all kinds of crazy states of non-being. And when I begin to realize that that's happened, if I'll allow myself to simply breathe, whatever's moving in me that holds some sort of pain or unconscious component, literally those energy patterns that tend to hold us in that state of unconsciousness begin to dissolve. An old fear, an old rage, an old guilt, an old trauma comes up, and if I breathe, then I will start to process through that. I will initiate the release of that, and when I complete with that issue, I can go back and have the same thing happen again. Oftentimes we'll have people who'll call and say, well, I started working on this issue 2 years ago, and, I thought I had it handled. Here I am back in the same place again. And when I point out, well, yeah, I remember when that happened 2 years ago when that came up for you. And do you remember how much crying, how much trauma, how much unconsciousness was involved in that? Do you remember how you couldn't say a positive word if your life depended on it when that stuff was moving? And now here you are. Yep, it's 2 years later. This issue's up. The energy's moving again. But notice that as you started to describe that memory, for instance, that was so painful, 2 years ago, you'd have been you were, blotto. You were totally out of it. And now you can kibitz about it. You can laugh about it. You can even have a smile and realize the progress that you're making. That's processing through the unconscious. That's the result of processing through the unconsciousness. And ultimately, in order to be a fully conscious being, we have to access everything in us that holds any form of unconscious energy. And doing that is called processing. And we are here to support the processing of everything that each and every being on the earth holds that is less than love, to support the painfully impacted energy that's held in the tissue structure that causes people to go awry whenever that particular issue is surfaced. And as one becomes more aware and more conscious when those things move, then just everything changes, everything shifts. And that's what we're here to do, is to shift everything, to shift out of hostility, fear, rage, guilt, grief, drama, and trauma, into the truth of what's going on. And, there is so much outrageous behavior. There's so many things that people can say, I'm upset about this, I'm upset about that, that really disturbs me. Our invitation is to recognize you've never been upset about anything in your life. Never. You say, well, Michael, I can tell you 1,000 things. Well, but notice how, remember when you started processing that one 2 years ago, you said you were upset about that, and now that you've finished going through that process, that thing can happen, and you look at it and you go, oh, well, there it is. The upset was something contained within you. And when you made your mind, when you moved your mind into a right position, you were able to stay connected to love, and that thing couldn't throw you off balance because there was nothing in you that was off balance in regard to that issue. If there are energetic patterns that are in you in regard to any given issue, and those energetic patterns are based in hostility or fear, then when they start to move, when something shows up that resonates that, then there'll be that sort of imbalance. And the idea is to gain your balance, whatever's going on in your world, to retain your deepest intelligence and even access deeper levels of intelligence in those circumstances that perhaps yesterday you would have found yourself just totally and completely bamboozled. So that's where we want to go. And I came across what I thought was a pretty powerful piece that I would share with you, written by a woman named Dr. Clarissa Pinkola Estes. She's an American poet, Jungian analyst, and she's the author of the book Women Who Run with Wolves. And she just writes a really powerful series of thoughts for people who find themselves in disturbance around all that's going on in the world, the political things that are going on, the pandemic, all the crazy stuff that's going on in the world. And the title of her writing is called Take Heart. And she says, take heart. We were made for these times. My friends, keep a steady heart. I've heard from so many recently who are deeply and properly bewildered. They're concerned about the state of affairs of our world now. Ours is a time of almost daily astonishment and often righteous rage over the latest degradations of what matters to most civilized, visionary people. You are right in your assessments. The luster and hubris some have aspired to while endorsing acts so heinous against children, elders, everyday people, the poor, the unguarded, the helpless, is breathtaking. Yet I urge you, I ask you, gentle you, please, do not spend your spirit. Do not spend your spirit dry by bewailing these difficult times. Especially maintain hope. Most particularly because the fact is that we were made for these times. Yes, for years we've been learning to sing and been in training for and just waiting to meet on this exact plane of engagement. I grew up, she says, on the Great Lakes and recognize a seaworthy vessel when I see one. Regarding awakened souls, there have never been more able vessels in the waters than there are right now across the world. And they are fully provisioned and able to signal one another as never before in the history of humankind. Look out over the prow. There are millions of boats of righteous souls on the waters with you. Even though your veneers may shiver from every wave in this stormy royal, I assure you that the long timbers composing your prow and rudder come from a greater forest. That long-grained lumber is known to withstand storms, to hold together, to hold its own, and to advance regardless. In any dark time, there's a tendency to veer toward fainting over how much is wrong or unmended in the world. Let go of your focus on that. There is a tendency, too, to fall into being weakened by dwelling on what is outside your reach, by what you cannot yet be. Let go of focusing there. That is spending the wind without raising the sails. We are needed. That is all we can know. And though we meet resistance, we more so will meet great souls who will hail us, love us, and guide us, and we will know them when they appear. Didn't you say you were a believer? Didn't you say you pledged to listen to a voice greater? Didn't you ask for grace? Don't you remember that to be in grace means to submit to that voice greater? Ours is not the task of fixing the entire world all at once, but of stretching out to mend the part of the world that is within our reach. Any small, calm thing that one soul can do to help another soul, to assist some portion of this poor, suffering world, will help immensely. It is not given to us to know which acts or by whom will cause the critical mass to tip upward. and move toward an enduring good. What is needed for dramatic change is an accumulation of acts, adding more, continuing. We know that it does not take everyone on earth to bring justice and peace, but only a small, determined group who will not give up during the first, second, or 100th gale. One of the most calming and powerful actions you can do to intervene in a stormy world is to stand up and show your soul. Soul on deck shines like gold in dark times. The light of the soul throws sparks, can send up flares, build signal fires, causes proper matters to catch fire. To display the lantern of the soul in shadowy times like these, to be fierce and to show mercy toward others, both are acts of immense bravery and greatest necessity. Struggling souls catch light from other souls who are fully lit and willing to show it. If you would help to calm the tumult, this is one of the strongest things that you can do. There will always be times where you may feel discouraged. I, too, have felt despair in many times in my life, but I do not keep a chair for it. I will not entertain it. I will not allow it to eat from my plate. The reason is this: uttermost bones, I know something as you do. Is that there can be no despair when you remember why you came to earth, who you serve, and who sent you here. The good words we say and the good deeds we do are not ours. They are the words and the deeds of the one who brought us here. And that spirit, I hope you will write on your own wall. When a great ship is harbored and moored, it is safe, and there can be no doubt. But that is not what great ships are built for. So thank you, Dr. Clarissa Pinkola Estes. I thought that was a very inspiring perspective on living from a place of a healed heart and a healed mind. Having done the process work that we're talking about in this particular chapter of Why Is This Happening to Me Again, having done the process work that allows us to be in that settled state, holding the space for the processing through of what humanity's ills and insanities look like. And we're honored and delighted to be sharing this time with you and invite you to take the tools that we're here to share, pass them along to others. If there's any particular radio show that you find meaningful for you, that you think might be meaningful for another, as soon as the show is over, you can go to our archives, and you find the archives if you go to whyagain.org. That's WHY, the letter Y, again.org. That's our website. And you'll see on the page a microphone. If you click on the microphone, scroll down the page, you find the microphone, click there, and drill down, and you will find a recording of today's show that you can either create a link to where you can actually download it to listen to it on your phone, or put it in an email and share it with someone else. In the meantime, Ms. Jeannie, do we have anybody on the phone queue with a hand up or anything happening in the chat room to be aware of?
No, it is all quiet here. So we've got a lot of listeners, so if you press 1, you're first in line without waiting. We have 38 minutes.
So we've got lots of time for conversation. What's on your mind? How can we support you? It is certainly a time where decorum seems to have been thrown out the window. you look at the way that discourse. I was reminded today as I was reading an article of one of the latest political insanities that people are paying for. People seem to be pleased because they're funding it to the tune of millions of dollars. But I was reminded of two gentlemen who I'm not even sure what the time frame was, a few years ago, began a thing they called the Civility Project. And they spent, it was better than a year, I don't remember exactly what the time frame was, but over a year, lobbying members of Congress and the Senate and the 50 governors of the United States, so 545 people. And in a year, lobbying all of these so-called leaders in our country, the basic simple question was, would you commit yourself to civility in your public discourse with others? And of these 545 leaders of Congress, they were able to get 2 people who were willing to make a commitment to civility. It's like, what has happened to human life? What is going on? How have we degraded so far that love is not, and when I talk about love here, I'm talking about our created essence as a state of conscious, active, present love, is not prevalent enough in the world today for us even to be civil with each other. How does that happen? How do we get so degraded that we can't, a group of leaders of what is supposedly the greatest country the world has ever seen, can't get more than 2 of them to commit to civility? It's just, it's kind of mind-boggling. And we're here to commit to civil discourse, to really, truly functioning as human beings, as we are designed to function. The question I often ask in order to have people tap into what we're made of, what we're designed for, is simply to hold a newborn child. And when you hold that newborn and you tap into the essence of that newborn, it's clear that the created essence of the newborn is love. And love functions a certain way. What has happened that there's so many people out there in so much trauma and so much pain that they can't even conceive of being civil, that they're willing to be as abrasive as a non-human could be. And what I find even more shocking is that there are people who are willing to donate to and support that kind of incivility. It's mind-boggling. And of course, the place to start that civil discourse is within your own home, is within your own mind, is to yourself. So often we've been fed by our culture, whether it's our family culture or the greater culture, this series of thought disorders based in hostility or fear about self, and that people live in the pain. One of the basic maxims of this work is to recognize that only hurt people hurt people. And when you look at the amount of strife and striking out that there is, you realize the monumental quantity of pain that is being carried around by even people on the very top echelon of what would normally be thought of as the moral and ethical culture of our society. And what's occurred that simple civility isn't possible. And my offering is that the hostilities and fears that we confront in ourselves and in the world are forgivable unless you don't have forgiveness. And when I say forgivable, I don't mean that if you're uncivil with someone that they should let you off the hook for that, because that's not forgiveness at all. Actually, that believing that that is forgiveness is one of the major problems in our world today. Believing that forgiveness is an act where I let you off the hook because there's pain moving in me is one of the greatest problems in the world today. Because when we call that forgiveness, we void real forgiveness. And real forgiveness is the ability to go inside of oneself and remove everything that is of a hurtful nature, every thought disorder, especially about self. To remove those things so that hurt disappears. So forgiveness is a tool of removal, not a tool for letting somebody else off the hook because there's some sort of untoward energy moving in you, but how to address and remove that untoward energy, to step into processing those energies that are less than love. And then to look at the genius of this man 2,000 years ago who brought the tool of forgiveness to earth in the form or in the context of the Aramaic language. So here's this man, Yeshua, 2,000 years ago, and he's teaching people to be responsible for the output of their own minds, to be responsible for their pain, for their trauma. And then how to address and remove pain and trauma. Basically what we're talking about in this chapter of the book, how to process whatever is unconscious in oneself so that there's no reason to go around hurting others because self is finished with hurt. If we carry around all kinds of energetic patterns with which we hurt ourselves and have no idea how to remove those patterns, literally how to remove the energetic dynamic that creates the offense, then one becomes so stressed that it's difficult to refrain from lashing out. It's difficult to stay centered when one lives with, a myriad of thought disorders that one inflicts pain on oneself with and doesn't have the technology for the removal of that. And if you haven't been using the technology, if you haven't looked into that yet, we have everything that we've learned in the last 50 years of working in this direction available free on our website. If you go to whyagain.org, I'm not sure exactly how many pages the website's up to. It's probably 20,000 plus. I don't know, maybe as we do this transfer over, Jeannie, we could do an assessment of that and find out just how many pages are there. And a great deal of what we've put on the website is dedicated to how this process of forgiveness works, because it bears no resemblance to anything that the world teaches today about forgiveness. Mistaken identification of forgiveness as a tool for letting other people off the hook because there are untoward energies moving in you is an atrocity that destroys the awareness of what forgiveness actually is. The tool with which, if you're in pain, you remove the energetic root of the pain that you're experiencing. And so in each interaction, when you've got that tool and an interaction brings up pain in you, instead of functioning out of that pain and, blowing others away or whatever, kinds of things have happened, vengeance, whatever has occurred, for one to stop and go, oh, I have some trauma moving in me. Let me apply this tool of forgiveness to remove my experience of trauma. And doing this is not dependent in any way, shape, or form on anybody else but yourself. And if you haven't used that technology as yet, we invite you to go to our website, and in the upper left-hand corner of the page, you'll see a link that says Start Here. And that's where to start. And it will walk you through many, many, many pages that will fully explain what forgiveness is in its original Aramaic context and how to apply it in your life. And so we invite you to go to the website, put it to work. There are radio shows where we've walked people through. There's a step-by-step worksheet process that you can download from the website, print on your printer, fill in the blanks. Here's how forgiveness works. There are many radio shows you can listen to that give full instructions on doing that. There are DVDs and CDs that cover many aspects of the work that we do. And you can do the forgiveness process right there on the website. You can also go to your app store on your phone, and when you get to the app store, type in the words Heartland, Heartland, Aramaic, Aramaic, forgiveness. When you type that into your app store, you'll be looking at the world's first forgiveness app. Download it. Start doing the process right there on your phone. The app has been totally designed with as little impingement on your privacy as possible, i.e., the only permission it asks for is I have to be able to use the internet in order for the app to work. Otherwise, there's no need for us to, as so many apps are doing, want to be able to dial your phone, take pictures, change your settings, record audio, access your files, change. There's none of that. The only permission needed is have to be able to use the internet when you actually fill out the worksheet. And the reason we did that was so that it's totally private, that you have confidence that you're the only one that can see whatever you put in there, and have the confidence to put anything in there that you need to. I remember one woman, actually the idea of making that a clear goal in creating the app came from a woman who had shared with me that she felt like the worksheet was her best friend and she could tell it anything, things she would never even admit to herself. And so that single phrase from this student, really was what inspired, Jeannie and I to have the conversation as the app was being created to make sure that it was absolutely as private as possible. And there is a facility within the app when you complete a worksheet, and we do suggest you do this, that you create yourself a PDF, you print it, and save it. So you've got it for future reference. And if you do save a PDF of one of your worksheets or all of your worksheets, then the app will ask for a second permission, and that will simply be permission to be able to write to your drive so it can be saved. But other than that, there are no permissions required, totally and completely private. And so we're doing everything that we can do to support people having the tools to process their unconsciousness and become fully conscious, realized beings, functioning out of love. I hold the space for the day to occur when 7.5 billion people wake up in the morning realizing, oh, I am the active presence of love. The people around me are the active presence of love. What have I been doing with all this rage and guilt and fear and especially in the context of my own closest family relationships. Like, what kind of craziness has been going on that this happens in the context of families? And that there's a line that comes to mind from one of the essays in Laws of Living that says, in law in Aramaic is not the rule of a superior, but rather is simply the way that this energy system works, how the energy dynamics, being aware of the law in Aramaic is being aware of how the dynamics of this energy system works. And one of the thoughts that's presented in one of the essays that I wrote is that the law is here so that we can look out for each other, so that we don't have to look out for each other, and to come to the point where wherever we look, wherever we go, there can be trust, and there can be truth, and there can be a reliable expression of human life, where caring and concern and humanity is more important than all of the things that are running the game today. Stirs anything for you? We would love to hear your voice. If you have any thoughts for us, if you're on one of those stations where we can't see you, which means you can't ask us questions, then if you dial into the show, the dial-in number is 563-999-3581. And when you dial that number, you'll be listening to the show. And then if you have a question, and this is a request, all you do is push 1. That raises hand in the control panel, and we get to have a conversation. And I would love to have a conversation with you. What's happening in your world? Is this all making sense to you? Is there somewhere that something isn't making sense about what we're talking about? And if so, I'd love to hear from you and see if we can fill in the blanks and be of support. So, Miss Jeannie, do we have anybody out there in the phone queue with a hand up? Anything happening in the chat room?
No, it is all quiet.
Well, I'm kind of surprised. It seems the last few days there just haven't been questions happening. It's kind of strange. Or conversations.
Like pulling teeth.
Yeah, it's like what's going on for everybody. So if you're out there, I mean, if there's no, the purpose, let's start out with some instruction, the opening of the show, and from there it's to create support and dialogue that is illustrative of the tools, and therefore can serve everyone. And if there's no need for that dialogue, then we can just let it go for today, I guess. If you're out there and you have a thought for us, if there's something we can support you with, then push 1. Let's have a conversation. And if we don't have any other conversations to be had, I'm complete with my conversation, Jeannie. How about you? Do you have anything on your mind?
No, I'm good. I'm going to look up that book, Women Who Run with Wolves, though. That sounds interesting. Do we have it by chance?
I don't. I think we have it at Heartland in our library there, but we don't have it here. No. But it's a woman that I've been aware of for several years, and someone just sent me a link to this particular piece, and it seems so appropriate for what's going on in the world today, and that she's creating such an anchor for humanity. It's pretty cool, pretty sweet. So if there's nobody out there with a hand up, nobody out there with a question or a thought for us,
actually,
anything to process?
Hold.
Hold. You sound like Aria now. Hold.
She said she's pressing 1, but it wasn't popping up, so I'm going to turn her microphone on.
Oh, great.
Magda, you're on. Hello.
And Aria, who's now about in the race, she's just in about 30 months. One of the things that she often does now is comes up with this hold, and she wants to be picked up and held. So, honey, come here, and hold you. So let's see what Miss Magda has to say. What's on your mind, young lady? Are we having some technical difficulties? Is that why we're not having callers, Jeannie?
I have no idea.
Why we're not having questions? That's kind of strange.
Magda, you need to unmute, maybe?
Are you mute sounds, Magdalena? Strange. A little technical glitch happening here.
Okay, let's try this. How's that?
Oh, there you are. Hey, young lady, welcome.
Okay,
Well, that was interesting.
I had no idea I was muted. Oh, my goodness. Okay,
well.
So yesterday after we completed our conversation, I had something to add, which I do not remember at this moment. And I pushed one about 10 different times, on and off, you know. And so you didn't see that apparently. And I just pushed 3 times from the time you started talking until when you finished today. So just a piece of information there. Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm going to check with Blog Talk and see what's happening there then. Thank you for letting us know.
I do have a question.
Awesome.
I'm working out in the garden, digging holes and planting stuff, so I will not be able to continue holding the phone and having conversations. But here's my question, and I want to hear your answer.
Cool.
It's just I'm not a Bible reader, having come up in the Catholic Church, and yet I do remember a few things, and that was as it is said, at least, as Jesus the Christ was hanging on the cross, he said, "Forgive them, for they know not what they do." And first of all, first part of the question, do you think that is an actual translation? And second part, if it is, if you think he really said that, what do you think he meant when he said, "Forgive them, for they know not what they do"? So I won't hang up. I will put myself on mute and listen. Okay.
Good question. Good question.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, young lady. Appreciate it.
Oh, yes. I appreciate you guys.
All right. So my take would be that, you know, when you realize that you live in a world of energy, if someone engages in some sort of viciousness, then, you know, in the Eastern jargon, they called it karma. And that is that, and Yeshua, his definition was exactly the same for karma, was as you sow, you reap. So if one engages in some form of viciousness, you know, he also gave Peter some instructions on this. He said, "Peter, if you live by the sword, you will die by the sword." So if one makes their way through life with all kinds of viciousness, let's say vile comments to people, put downs, criticisms, or in his case, physiological attack, then they are sowing an energy within their own field. If you remember in step 7 of the worksheet, I get the original of the energy I engage in. Somebody else gets the carbon copy. So you'll remember there was a point where Peter is going to stop this whole crucifixion thing from happening. And Yeshua turns to him and he addresses Peter directly as Satan. And he says, "Get thee behind me, Satan." And then he explains what he means by that. He says, "For you think in the mind of man rather than the plan of God." And so Peter says, you know, I have the power and I can save you. And Yeshua says, don't bother. Why not? My offering would be, Yeshua had called together a group of people to support him in demonstrating a principle. And if Peter had had his way, then he would have stopped that demonstration. So Yeshua sets this demonstration up and asks others to participate. And the part that some play in that demonstration is it's pretty vicious. So my take would be that, and whenever you find the words forgive your brother, forgive another, forgive them, or in this case, forgive them for they know not what they do, you find the words forgive as to your brother. And so my take, my understanding of that statement for him would have been, long form of it, thank you, Mr. Centurion, for bringing that spear up and piercing my side, because I had to allow my physiology to be murdered in order to show that it could have no impact over me and demonstrate to people the ultimate truth of what I'm teaching. So thank you for coming and doing that. And by the way, by engaging in that hateful act, you've sown an energy in your field of hatred that you are now going to have to live out. But I don't want you living it out on my account, so I am going to petition our Father to remove that karmic energy, that energy that you've sown within your field, so that you don't have to appear to be punished by that energy that you've engaged in. I called you forward to do this. You have participated unconsciously. I realize you don't know what you're doing on any conscious level. This is, it kind of goes back to the chapter we just read from at the beginning of the show on unconsciousness. So in essence, what I hear Yeshua saying is to the Creator is process this centurion's unconscious attack on me so that he doesn't have to suffer from the effects of what he's done. So remove the karmic assault of his act from his field so he is freed of it. He was just cooperating with what I asked for him to do. So that would be my take on what those words would mean in regard to those around him. Hope that makes sense, fits. And or if there's another thought that maybe you can get back to your phone, although here you are with all that wonderful soil on your fingers. We've been doing some of that ourselves here and planting in the garden, and I can just imagine your high tunnel and what you guys are doing out there. So it's pretty cool to think about. Am I hearing that you're back on the phone?
Am I?
You are.
Oh, my goodness. That was a very complete answer, and it brings up another question, which is, can we really release someone else from their karma by interceding, so to speak?
I don't think we can, no. That wouldn't be my take. Now, we could be the space. We could be the space and hold the space for them to process, but I think we can create the petition to the Creator, having been the initiator of the act that this centurion was engaging in, it would make sense to me that he could petition the Creator and ask that he be removed, that energy be removed from him, because Yeshua was part of what set it up in the first place, set the whole play up in the first place.
Right.
And I think we can intercede for others energetically. We can hold the space. We can be the space for the cleaning up of. Now, can I force someone else's willingness to receive that or for that to happen? No. But I can be the space that is there to facilitate that happening if there's willingness on that individual's part, when perhaps that individual has no awareness or ability in regard to processing something like that. That would be my take.
Okay. All right. Great. All right. Well, I'm going to get back to it. And what are you talking about, soil? We've got rock. We're in Missouri. We have lots. Say again?
I didn't quite understand. When you're talking about something, we have plenty of it in Missouri?
You said
soil.
You can vision me with soil all over my hands, and I was just making a terrible joke about Missouri. We don't have soil right here. We have rocks. You
right.
know that.
Yeah. You don't even have to fertilize for them, right? There's a whole new crop every year. I remember that.
Yeah, indeed.
I remember that.
And it seems like
it seems like such a long time since we've been out there with this whole COVID thing. It's going on 2 years.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It is. It's a very long time. But your presence on this show really makes it quite endurable and very, very pleasant, very doable. So I thank you guys again for continuing. And I shall continue listening. Okay.
All right. We appreciate you. Lots of love and blessings. Okay. Take care. Bye-bye.
And we do have another hand up. It's area code 610. I think this is Susan.
Yes, I've been coming and going. It's been a wild week. But Michael, and this is what you just said about, it's almost as if we're all players in a big cosmic drama, and that we have our different parts, and some of those parts are quite ugly, and some of them, apparently ugly, and some are not. So in a way, nobody knows what anybody is doing, and I've been telling myself that for certain, in response to my temptation to be angry at certain people in the government for doing certain things, I say to myself, this person doesn't know what he's doing. He, in his own weird way, he's doing the best he can, but you've taken it a step further. If I understood right, you're saying, actually, they're all here to fulfill something huge, and we need those players. Okay? That's my thought.
Okay.
Yeah, I think, Michael, when you say that they're here to show us their darkest underbelly, they're fulfilling a purpose for sure.
Yes. And I think it's wake-up time. It's time for us to become conscious participators. When two men come up with, as these fellows did that I spoke about earlier, something like the Civility Project and our invitation into that, it's like, it's time. It's time for us to just get conscious and get beyond that world of dog-eat-dog, hostility and fear. It's like survival's had its day on planet Earth. It's time for us to get over and finish with survival and get on with thriving as creative human beings. It's time to finish living in the world of hostility, for humans, to finish this living in the world of hostility and fear and incarnating as we were designed to incarnate and functioning as we were designed to function. And certainly the cosmic play is playing out, even Shakespeare, what was it, all men are players on the stage. And so let's get over our karma individually and collectively and get on with creation. That story where we're told to, go forth and multiply and replenish the face of the earth. That multiplier thing was listened to very well by people, but replenish wasn't really understood, and it was to become the cutting edge of the creation, taking the creation to its highest design. And I think it's time for us to get conscious of and function out of that condition of love that we are, to be able to take the creation to that next step. And to hold a space of compassion and support for those who've gotten lost along the way. And for ourselves when we've gotten lost in any form of hostility or fear. Does that make sense for you, Miss Susan?
It does. We're going down a rabbit hole here because in an extreme way you could say that the bad actors sacrificed themselves to come to the planet to show us our underbelly so that we could find God. And they did the ultimate sacrifice by being willing to be horrible. And I just don't want to go there. So, but I do think none of us knows what we're doing, and we probably don't really understand as much as we may understand someday. So
today's the day. That's my offering. Today's the day to become conscious. Today's the day to recognize what we've been doing to ourselves and each other in our hostilities and fears, and put an end to it. And get conscious of. There's a whole different game. There's a different game in town. Let's play it together, rather than this one that's so old. This, drama and trauma game.
I know. I want to make a quick report on Marianne Williamson. I went onto her website, Facebook, and she said you can join her as part of a team for healing the planet. I forget what she called it. I am awaiting my admission into that group. I'm not sure she's on Facebook much anymore, and I haven't done anything else. My next move would be to just write a letter to the president and say, "Are you working with this woman? How about it?"
Great thought.
So, yeah.
Maybe you could copy that letter to every member of Congress and the Senate and all 50 governors of the states.
Wow. Wonder how I would do that.
We had, who was it, Kucinich. Well, you can go online and get all of their addresses pretty easily, I know. A simple search on Google. But, Kucinich back a few years ago was in there pitching for a Department of Peace.
Oh, yeah.
And,
right.
It's like, let's start to lobby and spend the kind of energy that the lobbyists that are being paid billions to do it, the kind of energy that it takes to lobby these people to say it's time. We want something different here. Why are we funding to the nines the Department of War? I don't remember the multiplier, 10, 20 times what any other country in the world is doing. So it's just a wake-up call.
Right.
And we appreciate you. Hold you in a blessing.
Too.
And everybody, create the best year yet of your eternal life. It's an awesome gift to give the world. The world needs it. You can give it. Blessings.